got you, girl. We got you.
Good morning. Well, welcome to Unity of Port St. Lucie. Hope everyone got here on time or not too early or late or whatever. It was a long morning. So let's stand and sing one line. So let us come together in prayer. We take this time in prayer to become centered. We use our gifts of imagination and creativity to turn away from outer concerns and circumstances and turn within to the inner sanctuary of pure love. We immerse ourselves in the power of the all-encompassing, unconditional love where there are no expectations and no reservations. Nothing can diminish the power of divine love. We live, love, move, and have our being from this unending reservoir of love. Therefore, we are the power of love. That, dear ones, is our truth, and from that place we claim wholeness, freedom, and peace for our lives. And we behold the high watch for peace and harmony in the world. We see the world not as it is, but as we know it can be. By faith, we hold the world in the light of peace that is possible. We take a moment now to silently add our individual prayers. We go forward now knowing the light of God shines on our paths, and we are grateful. So it is. Amen.
There you go.
I'm slow. Now, would you say with me our mission statement? To develop our spiritual connection with God through prayer, education, and service. And our vision, Unity of Port St. Lucie is an expanding community for personal healing and spiritual growth. Whoops, what did I do?
You're there. There we go.
Happy birthday. It's the first Sunday of the month. And do we have any November birthdays? Happy birthday, happy birthday. Happy birthday. And now, let's stand and sing, Here I Am, Lord.
By the Lord of sea and sky, I have heard my people cry. All who dwell in lonely land will say, I who made the stars of night, I will make their darkness bright. Who will bear my light to them? Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. It is I, Lord. I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, if you lead me. I will hold your people in my I will set the feast of them. My hand will save. Finest bread I will provide till the cause be satisfied. I will give my life to them. Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. It is I, Lord. I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, where you lead me. I will hold your people in my
Daily Word will be read by Laura Baker.
Good morning. I honor life's shifting rhythms. Sometimes I'm trying to balance my schedule, meet my obligations, and even find time for things I enjoy. Can leave me scrambling to figure out how to fit them all in. Today I take my cue from nature and notice the rhythm of the seasons and the tides and the cycles of growth and the order that underlies all things. I appreciate how seamlessly the natural world balances itself and restores itself to harmony. This gift of harmony and balance lives in me. I honor myself when I flow with it instead of forcing my will upon it. I listen to my body's many signals. I rest when I'm tired eat when I'm hungry, and socialize and seek solitude as I need to. As I care for myself, I find balance. For there is nothing better for people under the sun than to eat and drink and enjoy themselves. How do I say it? Ecclesiastes 8:15.
Let's take that in, that truth. We know God is present wherever we are. There is no spot where God is not. We take a moment now and prepare ourselves to sit for just a few moments in the silence together. And we do that by relaxing first, deeply. We sink into our chairs or our sofas, our recliners, those of us at home, and allow those chairs and sofas to support us completely as we let go. We just let go. And we use that as a metaphor for letting go of everything. We scan our bodies just quickly, starting at the top of our heads. We scan our bodies starting there and moving down through our faces, and we relax our eyes, and we relax our lips, our jaws, and we move on down to our shoulders, and we relax there, our necks. We breathe into those areas, and we continue on down through our chest, our waist area, on down, relaxing, letting go of any tension, any stress. We release it, offer no resistance to it, make a space for it to exist somewhere outside of us. And then we direct our attention to our heart space in the middle of our solar plexus. We do that by directing our breath into that area. We just imagine as we take a breath in that it's moving down into our heart space. We center ourselves there with a few more breaths. We acknowledge the power that lives deep within us in our heart space. There is an unending reservoir of love, peace, serenity right there inside. We call it our Christ. Some call it the seat of our soul. Others call it God. Call it what you will. There's a place inside where we turn now and we immerse ourselves in it completely we allow our minds to become free, open, as our hearts open wider and wider. We spend a few moments together, friends, in the silence, acknowledging this Christ within us, the center of our power, the place where we can go whenever we like to connect with our source. We breathe into it, immerse ourselves in it now, together in the silence. And now very slowly and very gently and very lovingly, we return our attention once more to the outer, to our bodies and the space we're sitting in, bringing this experience of renewal and reconnection with our source, with us, carrying it forth into the rest of this service and on into the day and the week that lays ahead. Thank you, God, for this opportunity to come together as a spiritual community and sit in the silence, simply immersed in the love and the peace and the serenity that is ours, for the asking, for the claiming, for the acknowledging. We are so grateful. Let's slowly open our eyes, friend, and sing about the bond that keeps us all together in such a beautiful way, the bond of love. You can see me doing it, of course. I'm taking a look to see who's here. It's very good to be back with you. Very, very good indeed. Thank you. This is such fun. So I don't know how many of you grew up north, but if you did, you might know that usually in the center of northern towns that have been around for a while, there's a cluster of churches within a block or two or four of each other. That's customary. That was the heart of the town back when those towns were laid out. So it was in such a town where churches began to talk to each other, and they realized that they were all suffering from the same situation. There was infestation of squirrels damaging their buildings. And so they had a meeting, and the Presbyterian Church decided what to do. After much prayer and discussion and consideration, they concluded that the squirrels were predestined to be there and that they shouldn't interfere with God's will. At the Baptist church, the deacons met, had a long discussion over cake and coffee, and put a water slide on the baptistry and let the squirrels drown themselves. The problem with that is the squirrels love to slide, and they know how to swim. So twice as many squirrels showed up the following week and soon destroyed that church altogether. But the Catholic Church came up with a much more creative strategy. They baptized all the squirrels, made them members, and now they're only seen at Christmas and Easter. Not much was ever heard from the Jewish synagogue. They took the first squirrel and circumcised him. They haven't seen a squirrel since. Now, that has nothing to do with my talk today. But I couldn't resist. I went online to look for a good joke about messiness, and I couldn't find one. So I opened up the parameters and took any joke that made me laugh. You've had some good speakers here. I understand you loved Charlie, my friend Charlie. He thanked me profusely for introducing him to you, and vice versa. And he makes a bed up really well. Bless his heart, he knew that there was someone coming to look at my house that afternoon. I was out of town, and so I asked him to please leave no trace of himself. And he did a fantastic job. Nice guy. Lily, isn't she wonderful? Yeah, I love Lily Wong. Yeah, so I don't watch on Sunday live. Paul could tell you that. He would know, and his associates back there. But I watch it during the week. I steal some time for myself and make a cup of tea and watch the service, and I've enjoyed doing it. That's how I knew you ladies right here before I even met you, because Sherry introduced you. So, yeah. So today I want to make a public confession. All right? Ready? This will be the first time I've been to confession in 50-odd years. Here it is. I'm a mess. Really, I'm a mess. I don't think I've ever stood up and admitted that from the platform before, friends, but I'm a mess. Let me give you an example. I harbored an old belief that I'm not good enough, that there's something wrong with me. And let me tell you how that influences my daily life, because it does. Someone doesn't call, I want them to, and they don't. Or I'm not invited somewhere. Or I'm excluded from a conversation. Or I'm not chosen, and bang, there it is. I start to get sad because there's something wrong with me. Right? Must be something wrong with me. When I examine my feelings, and I look at the trigger, what happened that brought those feelings up, I discover that old tape. Remember those cassette tapes that no one has anymore? Well, now wait, somebody's going to say I do. Yeah, I knew it. As soon as I said that, somebody was going to say, I do. Well, I don't. I get rid of them a long time ago. But I discovered that old tape running in my head. I'm not okay. I'm not good enough. There's something wrong with me. And I feel those feelings of sadness sometimes for an hour, but sometimes for a whole day, and every once in a while, multiple days. I let that old belief overshadow what could be a peaceful hour or day or multiple days. I robbed myself of the opportunity to feel joy and love. I don't immediately turn to prayer. I don't immediately go to denials and affirmations. I'm a mess. Sometimes I just hang out with those feelings for a while. Wait, there's more. I also worry about things. I do. I don't talk about it very much, because what point is there? I worry that the world's going to hell in a handbasket. I worry that angry people might rise up and use violence against people they don't like. I worry that prices are going to continue to climb and more people are going to find themselves without enough money for housing or food or utilities. I worry about my loved one's health and happiness or lack thereof. I worry. And I wallow in worriness sometimes. Again, maybe for an hour, maybe for a day, and regrettably, every once in a while, multiple days. I'm a mess. How about you? Any of you relate to it? I want to hear it. I'm a mess. Oh, no. No. That will not do. I need you to proclaim it. I need you to own it. I need you to mean it loud and clear. I'm a mess. One more time. I'm a mess. Wow. Doesn't that feel good? Now that we've admitted it, what are we going to do about it? Yeah. Over the years, I've learned that it's advisable to accept my messiness. Some people call it the shadow side. Have you heard that expression, that term? Of course, it was popular a couple decades ago to talk about your shadow side. What is it? Well, according to a recent article in the Huffington Post, quote, it's an amalgamation of everything about ourselves that we've lost, cut off, ignored, hidden, denied, and run from. One of the primary reasons the shadow is perceived as dark and threatening is because it holds the aspects of our nature that we judge as bad, as unacceptable, or wrong in some way. In essence, the dark shadow is the deep well of our unwanted character traits. For example, anger and rage often live in this category, next to jealousy and greed. Anything we don't like about ourselves, feel threatened by, or can't accept gets thrown into this repository of fear and shame. The same article goes on to say that embracing the shadow side liberates us. It's a widely held idea. Have you heard that? It's a good idea to embrace your shadow side. And I concur. I concur that it's a good idea. But I still have it. It still shows up. It still gets in my way. Too often. And when I say it gets in my way, it blocks my joy. You know, it precludes the possibility that I experience and feel love. You know, the thing about this messiness, I won't call it shadow side, I don't like that term. This messiness, I like that word. And the thing about this messiness is that it's very quickly glanced over, especially in unity, among unitics, we're called. Yeah, it's judged real quickly by some of my favorite people. Unity ministers, girlfriends. It's not uncommon for me to share a less than spiritual reaction with people I trust. And it's usually the case that what I hear is, it's all good. Excuse me? It certainly doesn't feel it. And then, of course, people get ticked off because I say such a thing. Reactions like that, immediate reactions like it's all good, it's in God's hands, it'll change, it'll shift, take it to prayer, whatever. Reactions like that only serve to deepen my shame around having those feelings. It's an insidious cycle. Can you relate? I try very hard not to do that to people. And if I do it to you, call me on it. You know, it's a habit. Someone comes to you and they share their story and they're hurting. They're really, really, really hurting. They're sharing their humanity. The last thing I want to do is look at them and say, it's all good. You know? Or anything that would cause them to feel marginalized, dismissed, not valued. I need something more. I want to shake the messiness, but I haven't been successful thus far. I need something that brings me to a place where, I don't know, I'm proud of it. Do you know? That I use it to my advantage. Something that equips me to deal with it, and then share with others how I deal with it. And I found it. I found the something. It shouldn't surprise me that the answer came from my Pema Chodron. Now, this lady is amazing. How many of you are familiar with her body of work? Not very many. Well, I am really happy to introduce you today to Miss Pema Chodron. She's an American Buddhist nun. Actually, she's a priest. She was a nun first, now she's a Buddhist priest. And she's probably in her 80s now, I'm thinking. I didn't look that up, so pardon me, Pema, if I've got it wrong, but it doesn't really matter anyway. American-born, world-known, world-renowned. You know, within Buddhism, there's no one who doesn't know about her. And outside of Buddhism, there are an awful lot of people who have followed her work over the years. In 1996, she rocked my world with that book in orange, When Things Fall Apart. Now, interestingly, I had just begun attending my first Unity Church when that book came out, just started. And interestingly, that was one of the first books that the minister used to create a series of talks, that book. And so I have it. Not only do I have it, but you know me, it's all highlighted in multiple colors and the margins are all filled up with my scribbles. It's an amazing book. If you've never read it, it's timeless, the wisdom in that book. What do you do when things fall apart? Yeah, 1996. And then there's this new book. Now, I bought that book about, 7 or 8 months ago, maybe a little longer even. And I laid it aside, along with 3 or 4 others that I knew I would read eventually. And then I picked it up recently, and now I know why. Welcoming the unwelcome. In her body of work, and particularly in this book, Pema says that she believes that we turn to spiritual teachings. We turn to spiritual communities like this one, and spiritual teachings, book studies, prayer groups, discussions on metaphysics, all of it. We turn to all of that in order to awaken our hearts. Interesting idea, truly. It is, she says, the greatest motivation of all for studying spiritual teachings, to awaken our hearts. In Buddhism, there's a word for it, bodhicitta. Bodhicitta. Bodhi means awaken. Chitta means heart. We come to study things spiritual in order to awaken our hearts. That resonates with me very deeply. Awakening the heart is about being love, receiving love, thinking loving thoughts, taking loving actions. And the thing about messiness, it gets in the way. For me, it gets in the way of that. Do you see? My messiness gets in the way of experiencing, sharing, being love. And I made the connection between what Pema says after I reflected on it for a while within the first couple of pages of her book. I sat and I contemplated, took it deeper, and I made the connection automatically in my mind to something that Jesus said. I consider Jesus to be my master teacher. I think that Lily called him our brother, and I like that expression. I call him my master teacher. According to Mark chapter 12, Jesus said this when he was asked, "Teacher, what's the most important commandment of all?" And he says, "The most important commandment is this: the Lord our God is the one and only God, and you must love God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. The second commandment, equally important, is love your neighbor as yourself. No other commandment is greater than this. Love. Love. A commandment. Love." The first person to write about Jesus' teachings and share it with small groups of people who were hanging out to talk about Jesus' teachings, the early form of what we call church now. The first person to write about it was Paul, of course. And in a letter that he sent to a group of people who were meeting in Corinth to study and talk about Jesus' teachings, he told them in that letter that at the end of the day, when we do our spiritual work, and we're stripped away of everything temporal, in other words, everything out here that influences, everything that's temporary, when we're stripped away of all that, there will only be faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. Right? See the common thread here. So too, the Buddha taught that humans at our very essence are loving beings. And I believe that absolutely and completely, and have now for quite a long time. Every day in every way, the commandment is to love ourselves first and then love our neighbors just as much. Now, if you love yourself little, how are you going to love your neighbor? Little. It starts with loving yourself entirely, mind, body, and spirit. Pema tells us that the first impulse when we begin to focus on awakening our hearts is to remove anything that stands in our way, anything that blocks us from being loving, anything at all. Our impulse is to get rid of it. She says, quote, "We long to be free from the confused thoughts and habitual patterns that cover up our basic goodness, so that we can be less reactive, less fearful, and less stuck in our old ways. We understand that to whatever degree we can get beyond our neuroses and our habits, we can be more available for others. We may still be going through strong feelings and reactions on the inside, but if we know how to work with that without falling into our usual rut, we can be right there for others. And even if there's nothing dramatic that we can do, other people will feel our love, which actually helps a lot. Other people are influenced by the way we feel. You know that, right? Yes, of course. Less reactive, she says. Less fearful. Less stuck. Where do I sign up? Where do I sign up? Because I want it. I want it. I don't have the patience to wait any longer. I want it now. And I want it badly. So I'm committed to it for the rest of my life. Interestingly, Pema says that bodhicitta is a commitment. It's a commitment. She says, quote, "We commit to doing all it takes to free ourselves completely from all varieties of confusion and unconscious habit and suffering, because these prevent us from being fully there for other people." Well, I'm committed. And I think that many of you are as well, right? I see some of you nodding your heads. The rest of you can watch this again later on and decide whether you are. And it's a big job, friends. It is a big job. It involves what? It involves reading a lot of books. Yay, it does. Listening to teachings and deeply contemplating what we study, deeply contemplating it. It involves testing and clarifying our growing knowledge by applying it to our lives. Situations like the ones I described when I started this message, applying it to all of that. I recall during one of my book studies in the not too distant past, someone said with a little bit of frustration on their voice, "You know, friends, at some point we need to stop reading these books and applying them." Well, here's a breaking news, friends. I was offended by that remark. I'm a mess. I'm telling you that right now. I'm standing here telling you that. You know why? Because I do it every time I'm engaged with a book. Every time I'm engaged with a book. You know, I studied how to teach reading comprehension to kids. And then I got my master's degree in it. So I know a thing or two about comprehending what you read. And so maybe my approach is different because of that. Maybe. I don't know. You'll have to let me know whether you have the same approach when you're reading someone like Pema Chodron. First, I read it critically. So I open it up and I begin to read, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, do I like the way she says it? Do I like her point of view? Do I like her voice? Because if you're reading correctly, you hear the author's voice. If you're reading carefully, I shouldn't say correctly, if you're reading carefully, you hear their voice. You even hear their tone, or at least I do, instinctively. Do I like it or not? Do I like the way they construct sentences? Do I like the way they organize paragraphs? And what about the point they're trying to make? Does it resonate with me? That's all critical thinking. So I begin every book from that point of view, and that's a good thing. That's a healthy thing. And then I synthesize. If I've decided that it's worthy of my time and my energy, if the book is for me, if it's worthy of my time and energy, now I begin to synthesize the material. What does that mean? Well, I add in my own thoughts, my own experiences, my own opinions, and my interpretations. That's what we do in book study. We all synthesize together, and we create a space for each one of us to synthesize with others. We're in a place where it's safe. No one's going to judge you, at least not in my book studies, for your synthesis of the material. And then ultimately, we internalize it. We take what works, what resonates, we connect it with our own opinions, point of view, understanding, experiences, and we adapt it. We internalize it, and we carry it forward then. So I do that with every book that I study, every book. So don't say to me, I should stop reading books and take some time to internalize because I'm doing it from page 1. Do you know what I'm saying? Charles Fillmore, interesting, another connection that I made. I'm like, okay, so there's Pema Chodron, she's saying this, she's Buddhist, and then there's Jesus, and you know who he is, but what about Unity's co-founder? What did he say about all of this? So I found a quote of his from the book called The 12 Powers. He says, we have to learn to watch observe our consciousness, its impulses, its reactions. Just like the chemist watches their solutions. Interesting, saying the very same thing. But you know what Unity has done with that pearl of wisdom? Unity has decided on some level that if you have a reaction that is messy, that you should immediately use a denial and affirmation to erase it. I've been studying Unity since '96, and that hasn't worked. You know, that's the first time I've ever stood up and said this publicly because it's a recent revelation. Sometimes you have to step away from something in order to see it more clearly. Have you noticed that in your life? Yeah. So I love Unity. But I think it's done a little bit of a disservice by not focusing just a tad more on some other way for us to handle messiness. Right? Pema Chodron takes a very different direction when she talks about the patterns that we observe in ourselves. She actually says, first of all, own our brokenness, own our messiness. She doesn't use that word, by the way. That's my word. See, I've synthesized her material already. So first of all, own it. Be clear that you have it. And saying it out loud and saying it publicly is very liberating, friends. First of all, you do that. She says, and then you lead from that. You lead from that. You live from that. It's an interesting idea, right? She says if we don't, friends, we end up shielding ourselves from our messiness, and it cuts us off. It cuts us off from the fullest experience of life. Our world shrinks, she says. Let me share her actual words with her, and I think you'll hear this beautiful woman's tone and her voice. When I'm embarrassed, when I feel like a loser, when I feel something is fundamentally wrong with me, bodhicitta is present in those emotions. When I've made a big mistake, when I failed to do what I set out to do, when I fail to keep a promise, when I feel the sting of having let anyone down, at such times, I have the option to tap into the awakened heart of bodhicitta. If I really connect with my jealousy, my anger, or my prejudice, I find myself standing in the shoes of humanity. From this place, the longing to wake up, to alleviate the suffering of the world comes naturally when we stand in the shoes of humanity. You know, there's something there, friends. And that isn't even the end of chapter 1. There's something there that resonates deeply with me. I heard a news story this week that there are groups of people who are meeting in and they're becoming angrier. Now, how does one be with that kinds of information without judging it, without making them wrong and me right? Because I don't want to do that. I don't want to go there. I don't want to live in that place of polarization. I don't. It's hell. My definition of hell, polarization. Us, them. That's what hell is. And I'm over it. You know that old song, one of the contestants on The Voice sang it, and I celebrated her for it because it's a very old song and not one that kids usually choose. Mostly they're kids this year. Kids usually choose a popular song or a song that everybody knows and not really ancient. This young girl chose to sing What the World Needs Now. And she explained why she did it. And she stood center stage in front of millions of viewers worldwide and sang from her heart. Awakened hearts. That's what the world needs now, awakened hearts. And what the world needs now is for us, me, and every one of you, I think, to own your messiness. Own your messiness. Otherwise, how can you possibly relate to other people who are mired down in their messiness, wallowing in their messiness, lashing out from their messiness? I don't know. So when I come back in December, I'm going to tell you more because it's too much for one talk. And in January, I'm going to do a book study on this book. I will have read more of it by then, but that's perfect because I will have already synthesized and internalized, and I can share what I have figured out with you when asked. So there's a sign-up sheet on the back table. It'll be Zoom. So if you don't do Zoom, oh well. Sign up on that sheet. Shame on you. I sign up on that sheet and put your name and your email address and your phone number. And I'm taking that to several other Unity churches and publishing it with my own personal list of contacts and putting it online. So I suspect we'll have a fairly large group of people. So we're going to dive into this book together, and we're going to take our times. And we're going to read it critically, and then we're going to synthesize it and internalize whatever is ours to internalize. Thank you, friends. Have a blessed Thanksgiving.
To listen, and ears that you see can't hear. Don't need a cell phone or surf a website. Just turn around and there I'll be. I'll be your friend when there's no other friends. When sunny days turn dark and you can feel your heart, just turn around and don't make a sound. Then the bleeding heart mends, 'cause you still have a friend. Might not make miracles, turn water to wine, but I'll pick you up if life knocks you down. I'll dry your eyes from the ones that don't care. This lifeline is unconditional. Yeah. I'll be your friend when there's no other friends. When sunny days turn dark and you can feel your heart, just turn around and don't make a sound. Then the bleeding heart mends, 'cause you still have a friend. Should I have to leave this earth first, the world will never ever be the same. And if I go before you go, flying above, I'll have an angel in my name. Life is never over, it's what you have in your soul. I'll be your friend when no other friends. When sunny days turn dark and you can feel your heart, just turn around and don't make a sound. Then a beating heart mends, 'cause you still have a friend. I'll be your friend when there's no other friends. When sunny days turn dark and you can feel your heart, oh, just turn around and don't make a sound. Then a beating heart mends, 'cause you still have a friend. Still have a friend. Still have a friend.
Thank you, Linda and Jeff. And thank you, Linda. Always good to hear your message. Look forward to December. Do you know what date? December 18th. See you all back here then. December 18th. Now is the time we collect our offering. Would you please take your offering in your hand and repeat with me? Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, all that I receive. I give in love because I love to give. Go through some announcements. Marvia Reed is prayer chaplain today. She'll be, excuse me, get emotional. She'll be over on the door there after the service. Pardon? Oh, okay. Spiritual discussion group. John Hayes is this Tuesday? A week from Tuesday. Yoga with Lana. Prayer circle every Thursday, 11 to 11:30. Caregiver support group with Bob West, a fourth Thursday. The book study with Amy on Fridays. And Reiki, you see Sherry for appointment for Reiki. Linda, would you?
Sure. Happy to. So extend your hands, friend. Thank you, God, for these gifts. Thank you, God, for every giver who placed their offering in this plate today, and those at home who are sending us checks. Thank you, God. We receive gratefully in order to carry on this ministry in even grander ways. And thank you, God, for every prayer request in this box placed in our hands. We lift up every person requesting prayer. Hold them in the light. Celebrate answered prayer in divine order, and then turn those prayer requests over to silent unity. For the opportunity to do this and for the gifts we receive, we say thank you, God. Amen.
Go, Laura. The annual meeting is today after the service, so take just like 10 minutes. There's coffee back there. There'll be water in a minute and some, I apologize, but unhealthy snacks. And grab something, snack if you'd like, and something, and we'll meet back here at about 10 after 11. Okay? Thank you.
Any other announcements?
Choir rehearsal this Thursday at 6 p.m. All are welcome. If you can walk in the door and move your lips, you're good.
And I wanted to let everybody know that our store, Nutrition Smart, is having a Customer Appreciation Day next Saturday. So everybody's welcome to come and try out all the new things and all the old things.
And it's 20% off.
Oh, yeah,
Free.
20% off.
Thank you, and thank you for everyone who had anything to do with today's service. And don't forget to sign up for Linda's session. So stand, let there be peace.